This week I'm going to be tackling another one of my tanks. This one is the Sherman Firefly by Warlord, and that's pretty much what I'm going to be looking for in the style of it. I am probably at some point going to fit some sandbags and things on these, but for the time being I'm just going to build it straight. As is usual, I'm not going to be going with the tank crew sticking out the top. That's just personal choice, I just don't like it. The hedge cutter, again, I won't be using because this is for my 30 core, and they'll be fighting in Holland. So, right, let's just open this up. There's the instructions. It looks fairly straightforward. The usual two-part tracks that you often see on the Warlord tanks that clip together at the ends. Got a different skirt arrangement on that one. I think I'll probably go with that. Alright, so what I'm going to do, very similar to my previous builds, I'll work through the plan, cut the parts out, clean them up, get them ready, and I'll use photographs to capture the different stages that I'm at, and then we'll just progress through it. So I'll get the first pieces cut out and then I'll bring you back. So starting with the tracks, they were very simple to put together. It was easy to get the tracks aligned and they fit really well actually and clicked into place. So then I moved on to the front part of the tank. It was harder to identify the little bits because the parts aren't numbered. But once I'd done that, it was a matter of assembling it all together. And then that gave me the main base unit and time to think about weighting it. Time to add a bit more weight. And still haven't found my washers. And 2p's won't fit this time, so I'm going to go for 3 pennies. So again, I'm just going to put some super glue in the bottom, roughly where the pennies are going to be. That's the last one. Put a bit more glue in that. Don't want these rattling around inside. They're not going to get in the way of anything in there. And it just gives a bit more weight to the tank. It's just something I prefer. I think what I'm going to do to speed that up so I can move on is there we go. And That's its weight. It's not too bad. Got a little bit of weight to it. I mean, we ain't got the top half of the tank on yet, so... Right, I'll progress to the next part. Right, so with the pennies in place, I could move on and fit the top piece of the tank. And that went on really well. No gaps to speak of. Pretty pleased with that. And so the next thing was to look at putting some of the smaller fitments on, which, though fiddly, were reasonably easy to locate. And then switching back to the front, I put on the lights with the bars round them, and they went on fairly well as well. And then it was time to turn to the turret. This is where I noticed it weren't quite the same as some of the other tank kits. So I've just put the turret together, and I just thought it'd be worth me mentioning this, because you kind of get used to the way, you know, lots of tanks go together. And I was a bit surprised to find on this Firefly that, you know, they've normally got an arrangement for moving the gun up and down when it's complete. You know, with a series of bits that you don't glue so it can move. For some reason, this kit, they've not done that. It's just fixed. So you've got to kind of eyeball it, get it where you want it to be pointing, and then you literally just glue it in place, which bit different from the others. And then the other arrangement is, you know, normally they've got like the lips underneath, you know, so it kind of goes on one way, and then when you bring it this way it's locked. It's not got that either. It's just a simple pin in the hole and then turn it round. I mean, it's no big thing. It's just I thought it's worth mentioning because, you know, most of the other kits that I've built, they do have that arrangement with a barrel so you can move it up and down, and they don't normally just fit like that. They kind of, you have to put them on sideways and then turn it round, and then it's locked in place. But as I say, it doesn't really matter, but I just thought it was worth mentioning it. Right, I'll press on and get the rest of the top of the tank finished, and then I'll bring you back. Looking to put this together, if you look closely, the little raised dimple in front of the driver area, there's no hole in it. That's something I'll have to come back to. In the meanwhile, I've got all the other little components ready to be fitted. Just thought I'd bring you back to discuss something that I've found on this as well. Shortly I'm going to be fitting the MMG to the top. Now, on the drawing, it shows that basically fitting just there on top of a lug that stands up. Now, in effect, what that means is you're going to be gluing a blob of glue on the end of that and then standing it on a surface. Well, I'm sure like me, you know how notoriously easy it is to knock these things off, even when you're being as careful as possible. And it seems to me that a point of contact, just glued like that onto the surface, is just waiting to come off. So what I've done is I've modified it slightly. Whether you can see it there. That didn't have a hole, it was just flat. So basically you were supposed to glue it on top, just standing on the point of its peg. You know, so all you literally got was, it'd be like putting a blob of glue on there and sticking it there. There'd be nothing other than that to stop it falling off. So what I've done is I've took a slither off the top and then drilled a hole, and that way I can pop that in And okay, it's still going to be a vulnerable part, it always will be, but it's got that little bit more strength than just a point of contact. It's got something to sit in, and that's got to be better, you know, to give it a chance to stay in place. And it hasn't changed the look of it very much. So, you know, if you are going to build one of these, I'd definitely recommend doing that. So that was the main thing I wanted to tell you about. But then the other thing was, I thought I could just tell you, you know, where I'm going to go with the rest of it. Now on the kit itself, it tells you about these parts, being sand guards, and that, you know, quite often the people actually, you know, in the tank would take these off anyway. So I've made a decision. I'm not going to be putting them on mine at all. So as regards, you know, the actual kit and what's left over at the moment, I've got the two commanders, which I'm not going to use. I've got these that I'm not going to use. And the other sprues, as you can see, they're empty now. Now, if I pan back a bit, I've took off the parts to put on this. I've got a fuel can, a couple of wheels, and a couple of pieces of track. It only shows one piece of track being put on, but that's down to imagination. I can put it where I want it. But I have found one other little item. I think it's on this one. Yeah. There is a little light just there. And try as I might, I mean, you know, unless I'm just really not seeing it, it is not on this drawing at all. Now, I know from previous builds it'd be somewhere on the front of the tank, but I just cannot see it. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of research and see if I can see any pictures, because obviously I don't want to put it in an obviously wrong place. And at the moment all I've got to go on is past experience with tanks as to where they might be. But that's another little thing, obviously, that I need to sort out. But I just thought I'd mention these things because, you know, if you decide to build this kit, you just might be a bit surprised with some of these things. And the other thing, although it is a simple kit, none of the parts have got numbers on this sheet. And none of the sprues have got numbers on. Now, it's not that bad a thing, but there are some very tiny items that it's hard to see what they are on the drawing to know whether you're picking the right item on here. Now, obviously, I've got round it, so it can't be that difficult. But nevertheless, if it was somebody building this and this was the first tank they encountered and they were a bit unsure of it, I think, you know, it could have been made a little bit easier if they had put the numbers on it. And on this sheet, it's all very well showing the parts and an indication of where they're going, but some of it is not as clear as it could be. So I think that the thing is to just, you have to use your own common sense and just spend a little bit more time looking at it, you know, to be sure that you're putting the right thing on in the right place. You know, like I say, I don't want to overcook this because obviously I have worked it out, so it can't be too difficult. I mean, if I can do it, anybody can. But I just think it could have been made more friendly to people that are approaching this for the first time. I don't think it's been quite as user friendly as some. I mean, it's like the other thing that I mentioned about the gun going up and down. Why on the Firefly that's not a thing, I'm not sure, but just one or two little tweaks I think that they could have done to make this kit a little bit better. Certainly, having the gun slot into a hole seems to me a common sense thing that should have happened. But anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead, put all the rest of these parts on, decide where I'm going to position the spares, and then I'll bring you back. So I came up with the idea of heating a needle up, and then I could make a small hole for the little lamp that I found near the front of the tank, which I've seen on other Shermans. And while I was at it, I also increased the depth of the hole for the gun to sit in, which made it fit a lot better. It looks a lot more secure like that. So that really got all the small components fitted. Right, so I've added the last bits to the Firefly, and as you can see, what I've done is I've added the two pieces of track there and one of the wheels there, and then I've put the other wheel at the back to making sure it's got clearance for the gun, and the jerry can there as well. The other thing that I've just shown in the photograph, what I did, the little lamp that I found, and you may recall I couldn't find it on the drawing. Well, I did have a look at some other Fireflies online, and real pictures of tanks, and there was a lamp just here. So as you saw in the pictures, I basically heated a needle to punch through a little hole for that to sit in, and then I've just popped that there. And then the other thing that I did is I looked at some other people building these kits online, and I noticed theirs had actually come with a hole for the gun, which mine didn't have. The mould had just been complete. There was no hole there. So again, I started to drill that, but then I used the needle to actually burn it through so I could get the gun all the way down. So it's nice and secure now. But I think it's just a moulding issue again. I seem to have been unlucky with the last couple of Warlord kits. So, but it's in place now, and is looking good. Like the others, he'll just be waiting for his paint job. But yeah, I'm fairly pleased with it. I think that, there's a few things I could have done to make this kit a little bit easy, user friendly for especially somebody, building for the first time. Nothing too complex, but just the drawing could have been better. Numbering the parts would have helped. And obviously I've just been unlucky with the moulding where there's no holes where there should be holes, and but you get round these things. And the little lamp, like I say, I've just used my own initiative and put it there because that's where I've seen it on other Shermans. So that's it complete. So thanks again for joining me. Hope you found some of it interesting and useful if you're building your own Firefly. And if you have enjoyed it, please consider giving me a thumbs up. Or drop me a comment and tell me how you're getting on with your tank building and Fireflies. If there's any comments you want to pass about what I've done, or it's just nice to hear from other people that are building the same models. So please do feel free to drop a comment. Like I say, I'll always reply. And again, if you have really enjoyed it, please consider subscribing, and you'll get to know when, if you click the bell, you'll get to know when all my other videos drop. Thanks again for joining me then. and I'll see you again soon. Bye.